Have you ever caught yourself scrolling through TikTok or Instagram and suddenly feeling like your love life is behind? Like everyone else is in a dreamy, perfect relationship and you're somehow missing out? Or worse, that maybe love just doesn't exist anymore. This video is going to bring you back to the truth. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why comparing your love life to what you see online is creating fear, mistrust, unrealistic pressure, and unhealthy dynamics in your relationship. Let's bring clarity and power back to your journey. I'm gonna start off with part 1. Social media does not show partnership, it shows performance. All you're really seeing is the highlight reels, the viral trends, the flowers, the Paris trip, the big gestures, but what you're not seeing is the behind the scenes, the conflict resolution, the therapy sessions, the moments of doubts, the boring Tuesdays where love is tested. When we constantly watch these curated moments, we start to think that performing love is the same as having love, and that leaves us constantly wondering, why doesn't my relationship look like hers? Or why don't I have one at all? When you look at a couple online, are you admiring the connection or the aesthetic? Are you chasing their story, forgetting to live your own? This leads me to part 2, which talks about the rise of fear and distrust in relationships. Let's talk about something deeper. The emotional cost of constant exposure to cheating scandals, viral drama, and extreme online standards. For example, when something like the Wizard Liz and Landon scandal goes viral, what happens? Suddenly, everyone is checking their partner's phone. Distrust becomes the default. You start thinking, if it happened to her, it could possibly happen to me. And now love doesn't feel safe. Now you're not nurturing intimacy and you're starting to scan for threats. This to me is a very sad trend going on. Can you imagine putting someone else's relationship as a narrative to your own? Can you imagine working so hard with your partner for 1 year and all of a sudden, just because you see that a girl posted a cheating scandal, you see your favorite celebrity being abused, and everything you built suddenly becomes threatened? We're out here canceling people for cheating scandals and not meeting up to their partner's expectations in relationships, but never asking the why. Why so many of us are building relationships based on attention, not alignment. On the other side, we're starting to believe that unless your partner is flying you out to Paris or giving you gifts daily, they don't love you enough. If a woman doesn't cook for you or have the perfect body, she's not hot enough and she doesn't deserve you. So ask yourself, is what you're seeking truly love or is it validation? A lot of people confuse intensity with intimacy. You hear things like, I've never met anyone like you. It feels very amazing in the moment. But before you anchor into these words, pause and ask yourself, what emotion am I actually craving right now? Is it safety? Is it being seen? Is it finally feeling like you matter? Because if you don't get honest about the deeper emotional need, you keep falling for the performance of love instead of the truth of love. And this creates a very dangerous zone for your love life. A lot of women nowadays I see, they're bringing unrealistic expectations to a relationship that is not sustainable because they want their man to perform or men, they want their women to perform. When a love feels like it needs to measure up to someone else's love language or someone else's dynamic that we only know a very small part of, it becomes very fragile. And this unhealthy dynamic is also the reason why so many people, they are attracting narcissistic or manipulative partners into their life, because they are not firm in what they want and they base off the relationship onto this person performing for them. You base off your compatibility with someone on your core values, not what someone does for you or initiates to you or what someone says they are able to do or what someone looks like they are. A lot of people were looking for people based on what we need and what we want and not seeing the person as who they really are. A lot of us, we tend to look at all these things very superficial on the surface things. And this is the reason why our relationships are failing. If you pick a man because of the values he has, not what he does to make you happy and to make you feel like you're a queen, it's very less likely that you're going to be manipulated or cheated by a person, because you're operating the relationship not just out of emotions but also out of logic and emotional intelligence, and this is something that we all have to learn to build. And this theory that I just shared goes for everyone. Women falling for charm over consistency, men falling for fantasy over connection. It's not about gender. It's about understanding your emotional blueprint and choosing partners who meets you with aligned actions and core values, not just beautiful words or actions. From being in a lot of superficial relationships to now creating a very healthy, fulfilling, and nurturing relationship. True love is built on having needs that are clear, healthy, and realistic. Every relationship is unique, which is why it's so important to communicate your expectations openly and understand what each person is genuinely able to offer. I always encourage couples to talk honestly about their love languages and their boundaries and what makes them feel seen, rather than copying someone else's version of love. Because anything that isn't sustainable isn't built to last. If your partner is only doing things constantly to meet your needs, to avoid conflict, and not because it truly aligns with them, it leads to a lot of resentment, a lot of suppressed emotions, and not real connection. Whether you're the one being asked to perform or you're the one chasing the fantasy online, this affects all. These dynamics don't just hurt one party. They create pressure, fear, and emotional distance for everyone involved. And the couples that you envy online, half of them are emotionally unavailable to themselves, let alone their partners. You can see why the perfect idol that you idolize from a Korean drama, or the husband or wife of the celebrity that you think is beautiful, is amazing, is picture perfect. Why do they end up to be someone that you didn't think that they were, and you start to resent them? It's truly because human beings, we are hardwired to be imperfect. I always tell people to be very careful who you idolize and idealize. For me, I think that it's not healthy to idolize anyone or put anyone on a pedestal, because every one of us here, we are born to grow and we are born to evolve and we are born to obviously have flaws. Even people who are talking about self-growth like me, I'm not perfect, and self-growth is never meant to feed your ego or make you think that you are superior over other people. The beautiful part about self-discovery, it makes you be a more conscious person. It makes you a lot more grounded in this crazy world. This leads me to part 3, which talks about why comparison is a lack mindset that will hold you back in your relationships. When you're in a comparison state, you think that you're not measuring up. That's the reason why you need to measure someone else's love life or someone else with you. And the second you do that, you enter a scarcity mindset. This is why a lot of limiting beliefs happen, like people feeling inferior or people rushing into relationships because they feel pushed. They feel like they need to also have the love that their favorite influencer has. Love is not a resource that runs out. You're never left behind, even if you're one step slower. You're not too late and you're never missing anything out. Everyone has our own timeline in our love life, and you're just in your season. And everyone's season has a sacred purpose behind it. Even if you went through unhealthy relationships, or even if your relationship doesn't seem as perfect as other people's, it's always here to teach you something, and it's always here to empower you. When you internalize someone else's story as the standard, you abandon your own. And when self-abandonment happens, this is one of the roots that causes a lot of unhealthy dynamics in relationships. And when someone doesn't know themselves well enough and they tend to self-sabotage, it's very easy for them to attract equally wounded people and equally lost people in their relationship. But I want you guys to know that even if you realize that you have been operating out of this, you should know that you have the ability to change. The people who are able to create, even after they are wounded or even after creating toxic relationships, are the people who choose to be conscious and aware of their patterns, and they start to take accountability and they stop jumping into the whole train of hating men, or canceling women. I'm not preaching for anyone to be perfect or saying that we all need to be this or that, or having an emphasis on whether these type of people are inadequate. But I'm rather addressing having a balance, having accountability, and having an awareness with how we construct our beliefs, how we construct our love lives. These extreme betrayals and idolizations are both rooted in the same wound, which is fear. Now I want to do a quick exercise with all of you to create a new mantra. Let's do a mini reframe exercise. Write this down or say it out loud. I choose to believe that love can be real and imperfect. I don't need proof. I just need the strength to create what I believe in. Practice this mantra every time you catch your monkey mind trying to tell you otherwise. See it, acknowledge it, but reframe it back to what you truly want. And this is what I want a lot of men and women to find back, the essence of being, not judging someone, but when you go on a date next time, when you're more healed, you're able to stand in this very clear, unbiased perspective. And even if you acknowledge that this person isn't a one for you, you're like, next, but with respect. A lot of women, why do they turn into very hateful women, or even men? They turn into resentful men because they met women that are unhealed, or vice versa. It's because they don't grow out of the hurt. They don't grow out of their wounds. And I want to create a community where we all have this safe space to talk about all these things that society doesn't want us to hear. Which leads me to part 4, which is setting your own standards in a relationship. You create your own definition of love, your own standards, your own vision, because when you don't know what you value, you will be vulnerable to everything you see. Now, I want us to take some practical prompts, and you guys can take a pen and a paper out right now and jot all these down. Number 1, what values do you want your relationship to be rooted in? This is very, very important. Because when you set an intention to something and you align it with core values, it becomes a very strong bond. A lot of people, they often create relationships out of fear, out of very lost state, because they don't know their intention when they come into a relationship. So when you start to know your own core values, and you also know what are the core values that you're looking for in your partner, in your relationship, you guys have a shared belief. And when you guys have a shared belief, your relationship becomes a lot more meaningful. Number 2, what qualities do you want your partner to embody? And this point, I want you guys to not base it off the things that you're seeing online. Truly ask yourself, your personality, your compatibility, what kind of partner is gonna be the one for you, where you guys can go through a lot of things. You guys are going to create the future that you both want together. What is this kind of partner going to exhibit in terms of quality? A lot of people say things, I want a tall man, I want a man that has mustache, I want a man that has this, or I want a woman that has an anime body, I want a woman who cooks. That's up to you, but we're talking with depth right now. I want you guys to brainstorm what is beyond all these things, are things that time can't take away. For example, if you want a woman that's beautiful, she's gonna age. She's not gonna look like this for life. But if this woman exhibits certain qualities that are gonna align with you to create the future that you want, for example, that's gonna exhibit qualities like kindness, authenticity, things like this, she's gonna be beautiful to you even after 50 years. When we are looking for qualities, I would much rather encourage people to have qualities that are beyond the surface level qualities. Ask yourself, what does your soul want to create? And see beyond this person's external looks. Look at what he has in there, because every one of us here, we have our own unique set of gifts. We have our own beauty that is here, not here. And how do you want to feel daily in love? Emotionally, spiritually, physically. When you anchor this into clarity, you stop chasing the fantasy and you truly start building the foundation. And I want to say a very important point. A lot of us, we think of finding the one as a destination. But I want you guys to know that everything in life, when you start to think of it as a destination, you are easily disappointed. When things don't go your way, or you don't receive what you expect, you lose the beauty of the journey. To me, everything in life, even if I have goals, I have dreams, and I want to make them happen, I always think of it not as a destination, but I think of how I need to build myself to get there as the ultimate trajectory, because that is how it makes everything so much more beautiful and grounded. It doesn't have to turn out the way you entirely think that it would, but sometimes when you have that space for failure, when you have that space to experience beyond what you think, trust me that you're gonna get rewarded even more. Compare it to when you are building a career. When you're building a career, if you didn't have to work for it and your boss immediately gives you that pay raise, you wouldn't appreciate it. If you start off your channel and immediately you have 1 million subscribers, you're not gonna feel that joy because you don't know how to work to get there. And I want to pass this to all of you. Don't be afraid if your journey is gonna be slower than the others, because what truly matters is the journey, not the short-lived outcome. That you can have all of the desires in the world, but when you finally get there, it's not gonna feel like much. But if you see how you got there, it's gonna evoke so much emotions in you. That is the most priceless part about everything. One last thing that I want to tell you guys, you don't need your love to look like the trending TikTok story or the beautiful Instagram reel that you're scrolling on. You need it to feel like home, a sanctuary that you can come back to, and you guys look at each other when you're old and gray and be like, we did this. We walked this through together and we did the impossible. So I want you to let this be a reminder that your love doesn't have to impress strangers. It just needs to nourish you. Your timeline is valid and your healing is sacred. And your story, no matter how slow or quiet it may be, is worth building with intention. Remember that creating your ideal love life is not all there is to life. But when you learn to know what it takes to make it possible and grounded and realistic, yet nurturing, and you slowly learn in a journey despite imperfections, that's where you create space for love and possibilities to flow into your life. Every day, we are relearning and unlearning together. I want you guys to engage with me in the comments. Have you ever caught yourself comparing your relationship or your single season to what you see online? What is one thing that you are reclaiming for yourself now? If this resonated with you, I wrote a book called Becoming Whole for this exact reason. It's about learning how to become the love that you seek and how even the challenges we're ashamed of can become our greatest source of power. A powerful tool for anyone navigating self-growth, and it would mean so much to me if you support my author journey. And if you want more truth like this, subscribe and stay tuned. Let's create a community of limitless possibilities and empowerment. Bye!